begin today's video on how to kill titans, we're going to go through the 4 basic methods that I'd like to establish on based off how we tried to kill them in the previous video I made on how to beat the tutorial. Obviously you have the basic method, or the go for the blind cadet. Really effective for new players. It's pretty well known. It's how most people do it, especially when they're newer to the game. All you do is you just go for the eyes while you're boosting, you just orbit around, and then you get the nape. Simple as that. Obviously you could do it more efficiently, which is what most people try to learn how to do, which is called orbiting, where you orbit around the titan's nape, or basically you orbit around the titan and kill them without ever slashing their eyes. This obviously is a little bit more advanced, but also way more efficient blade wise and also gas wise. These are not, well, semi. I feel like it could be slightly less efficient, but it's definitely pretty efficient in comparison. Moving on past the basic orbit, we have the leg orbit, the other one that I see a lot of people do. I don't do it that often, which is why you just saw me fail how to do it, but it's basically just orbiting around the legs and then going for the nape like that. I don't know how people do it. I don't think it's very efficient. I think just doing the shoulder orbit is better, but whatever. That's just me. I can't even do it. I don't know how people do it, but that is another method if you want to try to focus on legs. Though there's a lot more negatives doing this, because if they're a diver or they're a spinner, you're completely cooked. Moving on past that hiccup, I guess you could call it, we have our next method, which also only works if they're not a stomper or spinner, which is the between the legs method. You just go between their legs and you go and you just kind of, so you see this, you just boost past their legs fast enough that you don't get hit by their stomp ability, and then you just do a full 180 and you slice their nape. Obviously, for example, if they're a stomper, this would get you just completely stomped out. If they're a spinner, you're completely conked out. There's no way you're taking on your damage. You're dead, especially if you're an enlisted. Which is why, out of the 4, I would definitely say that the orbit, the basic one like this one, is probably the best for you. Though obviously it's all up to preference, and I think when learning the game, I would probably do the order of blind, go for the blind, followed by in between the legs, and then try to get to a full orbit. Moving on past the 4 basic orbits that everyone should know how to do, you have the decap. This is a pretty flashy move, but it's not just flashy, it has actual benefits. That being that when you decap, which is like that, you don't use any blades when you're actually getting the decap off. And this is just pretty well known. It's done mostly when you're better at the game, because it's kind of a precise button input, because you have to, obviously most people like I do, because I'm not good enough really to orbit decap, but what you do is you just find your prey and you slash their eyes, you orbit around them, and then you, while grappling and boosting towards them, you triple tap W if you have impulse unlocked and swinging, and if you're going fast enough because you impulsed slash mega boosted, whatever you want to call it, everyone has a different name for it, you get a decap. Pretty flashy move, pretty exciting, pretty useful actually. The only problem is, since you are boosting, you're using a lot of gas, but nonetheless still pretty cool to look at. Obviously decaps and orbits are all pretty good and nice to know, but when it comes down to it, the best way to kill a titan is just however you want to do it. I just think that with proper practice, my personal preferred way is orbits and decaps, because that's kind of what I learned when I was learning this game. But obviously it's different for everybody. Like, that wasn't even a decap, because it's a really hard thing to do. Orbit decaps are really hard, especially when you don't get a blind. I can't do it even. I know there's probably a lot of people out there that could, but oh, to add on to the original decap, you can also slash their, you can orbits, you can impulse slash and a Titan's legs, eyes, and if it's a shifter, you can impulse cut their hands while guarding their nape. And all of this does not use the impulse, but only if you decap do you automatically get impulse immediately back. All the other ones you just get the cut, and that wasn't even a proper cut, but nonetheless you would get your impulse back if you decap, but otherwise you do not. And that is the basics of Titan versus player combat.